Hi, this video is about what Bill Gates has said recently with regards to AI, and I'm going to combine two pieces of recent information, this video interview he did with Microsoft CTO, and then this article that he wrote where he said basically he's seen two demonstrations of technology that struck him as revolutionary. One was way back in the 80s with the GUI interface, and then two being basically GPT-4 that he saw last year in a private demonstration where he was blown away by it, and he thought we were further away from it than we actually are. This article is actually a really good article. One of the things that's really interesting about it is it gets into his personal priorities, which in turn you can kind of reach logical conclusions to what this is driving Microsoft's priorities, which is also, I think, driving OpenAI's priorities. And it also helps explain why it seems right now like Microsoft and OpenAI are being much more aggressive about putting this out there and seeing how people use it versus Google's like, hey, the regular people, they're going to blow stuff up, do bad things, and so we're going to slow walk this out. And that is possibly why, just broadly speaking, OpenAI's large language models seem like the best right now, better than what Google is putting out there. Maybe internally they have something better, but that's for another video. Here's another really important point. We're going to dig a little bit deeper again into his personal priorities, which again I think kind of push forward through to understanding what Microsoft has done recently and what they'll continue to do into the future. He's thinking about reducing some of the world's inequities. This is a common theme throughout this whole article, and so that to me is the biggest reason why he's doing a balancing act. Yes, there's some dangers which he acknowledges with AI, but he sees the incredible value to saving the lives of children, and so he's balancing that, and he's saying, hey, let's just like push through, not like blindly, and not with some caution, without some caution, but let's be, let's push through that. I think this explains it kind of broadly speaking. I mean, just to look at climate change, which he brings up a really good point. The injustice of climate change is the people who are suffering the most, the world's poorest, are the ones who did the least to contribute to it and benefit. I would even add, and benefit from the things that produce the climate change, because it's kind of two parts of the same coin, two sides of the same coin. But he does acknowledge that it's extremely disruptive and it's pretty powerful and kind of it's going to change a lot of things. So here he starts getting into defining artificial intelligence, and I think it brings up a valid point to some people. Maybe they think artificial intelligence hasn't really been around that long, but really it's been around since the dawn of computers. It's been in people's minds, and so they have been dreaming of true artificial intelligence for a very long time. So many computer nerds for 70 years or something, and this is what you see in a lot of what I'll call computer science nerds, and I say that very lovingly. The computer science nerds, a lot of them are working on this, and they're trying to solve this, and so this is kind of what he's referring to here. And it does feel like this is a different level that we haven't had before in the last 70 years of artificial intelligence development. But it is the culmination of lots and lots and lots of work over many years, but also just things are way more powerful now, so we can do a whole lot more. And there was a major development by Google internally, the something pre-trained, I think it's generally pre-trained transformer. I don't remember what it's called, but it's the transformer part of that, the technology that Google developed that is the core of all the large language models right now. Here, I think he jumps into something that to me is key to AI, at least right now, and I think it goes beyond this well into the future, not just beyond productivity, but it will enhance the productivity that's gaining people now. In addition, there's just so many other areas where it's going to affect things, which are going to circle back around to productivity. But basically, he's admitting that, yeah, right now it does seem like using ChatGPT does create a productivity enhancement for certain types of tasks. This is something that he goes into in the video, but also he mentions it here. This is one of the areas where I sort of disagree. I sort of agree, but I also think that kind of the intent of this is not exactly correct. One of the things that they say in the video is they talk about how like, oh, well, this is a great equalizer because in order to interact with a computer before, you had to know code, and now you can just put English in. I think this is a gross oversimplification. People are using computers every day right now to do exactly what they want it to do without knowing coding. So that's already happening right now. But additionally, the exact way in which you use the language has a huge effect on what you get back from the models. So actually, people with a very strong connection and very strong language skills will actually do better. And so it's not really a great equalizer in that front, because the people who are less educated with their language will be able to use this less. Additionally, understanding how certain things, either in the topic that you're trying to reference, understanding that better helps with your ability to use ChatGPT. So, for example, you can use it to learn to code, but if you know more about code, you're a lot more effective with it because you can recognize, oh, that was wrong, or you sometimes you just don't even know the right questions to ask, and so knowing that is better. But so hopefully that kind of, again, it's not completely wrong because it does open new opportunities for people who couldn't do them before, and in that way it is a little bit of an equalizer, but it's not quite that simple. It's kind of impossible to completely equalize everything, which I'm not saying he suggests, but I don't think this is really that true. He does talk about a personal agent here, which it's unclear to me if this will be a personal agent or it will be more like a series of personal services that people use, sort of like how people use the computer and apps on their phone right now. There are a bunch of specific AIs that do specific tasks that are relevant, and that's it. And maybe there is one that will be super broad, but my guess is that one will actually be more likely to connect into the other ones. I think that the amount of work to get something to do everything is just not practical, and at first everything will be solved one piece at a time. Maybe multiple pieces at a time. That's one neat thing about ChatGPT, is it actually is able to do a lot, but at the same time, it doesn't do a lot of. There's a lot of things that it does pretty decently, but that it's still not enough to really be considered like a personal agent. I'm kind of curious if this will come about, but my guess would actually be no. That's not really what will happen. Here's another insight into not just what his priorities are, but where he thinks AI will help a lot, and it's in health. And I think this is all the data shows right now that actually health might be the biggest beneficiary of AI, more than anything else, more than education, more than even coding or whatever. It's already working in the industry and doing things right now today, as of over the last several years. And so him including this in here is a confirmation of that to some degree, because it really can do a lot, and I think he recognizes it. There's so much that AI can do to help us solve new problems, but also help us solve old problems that are hard to solve in like the poorer countries with less first world structure around them. And specifically, let's just give an example. I don't think he mentions this exactly, but this is, you could have maybe your phone scan you and be able to diagnose things really easily, or like an app that connects just to like a blood sample, a simple blood sample, and then that is able to tell a whole lot about you. And there's just a lot of potential with AI on many fronts in the health field, and specifically if it really like solves certain things, it might drive the price down of that as well. So which enabling it to be used heavily in first world and third world countries, which is again a theme of his thing, which is, hey, if I can say, here's kind of a way I think he's kind of looking at it to some degree, or at least it's bouncing around in his head. Hey, if I can save millions of children from dying per year, I'm willing to take some risks for that. I'm willing to push forward aggressively with this technology. He does mention education, and it's really interesting here because it seems like he's kind of lamenting about the fact that that computers and technology should have done more for education than they have, but now he sees that it finally will, and again, with solve some of the inequities here. I wouldn't consider myself an education expert, so it seems reasonable to me. I'm not completely sure. It seems very likely. Let's just put it that way. But it also seems like maybe not. It might not actually. And here's where he acknowledges the risks. But let's see. He has a statement in here. A couple statements. First of all, he says basically this problem is no more urgent today than it was 4 months ago. Well, GPT-4 and the like appear to go from 0 to 1,000,000 miles an hour in terms of like a sentient AI. It is a step in that direction, but not as strong of a step as it looks. They were further along than it appeared, and they're not quite as far along. It's not quite that much of a difference. That's one of the points that he's trying to make. He brings up what he admits are valid questions about like, well, what's going to happen when something's like way smarter than us and just better than us at almost everything. This is going to be a profound change in society, and it's hard to disagree with that. He also brings up here something that I think is really good because there's a lot of sensationalism, clickbaity things. It's like, oh, it said it wanted to kill people, but just because it's saying that doesn't mean it actually has an intention, and that it's not necessarily representing independence. What the way the language models work is they're basically mimicking all of the language they see out there. So in a way, this could actually be very hollow, and maybe potentially, this is my interpretation, this is my own idea, that large language models won't ever get there. That is on the table. I think it's probably more likely that it's like that actually large language models are a significant part of the solution should we actually reach a sentient AI, but they're definitely not there now. There's a lot of things that demonstrate even GPT-4 is missing a lot of things. It's like, yeah, it's not really thinking. It's just kind of regurgitating, remixing things, and pattern matching. Here's, to me, one of the most profound things that he's saying in here, most impactful things, and the thing that I think puts a lot of the pieces together in terms of what he believes, what his priorities are, and what that means in terms of Microsoft and OpenAI's actions. They want to try to balance the fears about the downsides, which are understandable and valid, with its ability to improve people's lives. To make the most of the remarkable new technology, we'll both need to guard against the risks and spread the benefits to as many people as possible. It's an extremely rational and thoughtful approach to how I think we should treat AI. I actually like this approach, just broadly speaking, more than Google's. And while there are some risks with AI, I think that one of his points is like, hey, we're not really close to like the sentient AI. We're not as close as it seems. That's his opinion. Now, he thought we were further away from something like GPT-4. Maybe we're actually still pretty close, but there's definitely some more dominoes that need to fall before that happens. And I think in the video he mentions a few other things that I think is a good thing to kind of put this up against in terms of the fears of AI. There's rightful fears, just like there's fear of nuclear weapons, and there's fear of weapons of mass destruction and poison and fentanyl or whatever, and that doesn't mean that just because there's potential downsides that you have to just put a whole stop on it. I mean, just think about cars and how many car accident deaths there are every day, yet we still drive cars. So that doesn't mean that they don't add value. And I think this is kind of my little extra angle on his point here, which is there is a lot of benefit that we're going to be able to get from AI. It's just sort of like, it's definitely there. And it's kind of, you can hear that throughout the article. But there's also, while there are some downsides, we can't let that stop us from moving forward aggressively. Yes, we can try to be careful. I think that's basically what he's saying. but we need to move forward with this so that we can basically everything, so we can save the lives of poor children across the planet, like who can't afford to get the healthcare they need. I think that's like, you can, if you think about it like that, then yeah, of course you're going to push forward more aggressively. And if this, if Google continues, I did a whole video on like the AI wars, but if Google continues to have a much more tepid or very cautious approach with putting this stuff out there and allowing people to use it, and Bill Gates is not going to let off the gas pedal. That's kind of what I'm getting from here. Like they're going to keep at it, and he's going to be actually a pusher of this. He's going to be pushing them forward, asking them of things, smart questions and smart ideas on how to move this forward, but also in balance with the other things. So if Google keeps slow walking it, they're just going to get further and further behind. Now, again, maybe they have something internally, but just the longer they just kind of keep it inside, the more risk, I think, to them. So the second point that he makes here, the market forces won't naturally produce AI products and services that help the poorest. The opposite is more likely. I think this is pretty true, but I do think that there's some potential for people to actually make money off of helping poor countries, as especially if you can do something at like really massive scale and really solve really big problems. But I think this has less to do with like what he wants. How do I put this? Let me put it like this. It's more of a personal decision that he's making here. I don't know how much this really affects Microsoft and their objectives, other than when he gets money from Microsoft, what he's going to do with that to help kind of offset this right here. Because the opposite is more likely. Who's one of the biggest beneficiaries from this? Microsoft. Like, of all the companies on the planet, Microsoft, it seems like right now, is the biggest beneficiary of this AI explosion. If you see tons of tools built off of GPT-4, including Microsoft's own, and just the way they push it out, they're stealing market share back from Google in the search. That people, you can use Edge. Edge is actually now a better browser in a way, because it has like ChatGPT implemented in it, and it can kind of scan what you're doing. Those additional features, they're going to benefit from this AI explosion and the attitude with which Bill Gates has. So maybe this is more of like a promise that, hey, if we make a shitload of money off of this, we're gonna spread the love. And so I think that's a really good sentiment. He's kind of saying, even though we will benefit, I'm not sure if he's doing this intentionally, we'll help people out, which is nice. And then his third and final point is that we're basically only at the beginning of what AI can accomplish, and I think this is very true. Let's put this in context with who he is. He's a very well-read person. He's studying all sorts of different technical topics. He reads fiction, he says, but most of it is not fiction. But he's been on the front lines of computers since basically they really came out. And so his perspective on this, I think, is very meaningful. And the fact that he is saying, we're just at the beginning of what AI can accomplish, it should be very, very meaningful. And it seems, everybody is kind of obvious to a lot of people, but maybe less or more obvious to other people. Its power and impact on our society is just going to explode from here. So definitely, I recommend you read this article. It's really nice, or maybe just this video was enough, and then maybe listen to this. There's not really any visuals other than seeing their facial expressions, so you can kind of listen to this basically as if it was a podcast. That's what I did, and it's a really good listen. Again, Bill's very thoughtful with his answers, and he's very, he thinks through things and he studies things in great detail, and so I think that it's a really good idea to listen to him and to understand on where things are going and where we're at right now. So if you like this video, like and subscribe. Thanks, and have a great day. Bye.